Well, first of all, I want to thank Larry for inviting me to share my ideas with you today, and also state that I feel very gratified and honored to be sharing this moment with you all, given who is here, who thought needed to be here to talk about these issues. And of course, my fellow presenters, very happy, very encouraged that this event is happening. Okay. I also want to say that I had a big discussion with Larry at the beginning of the email of the issue of economic model, and we've been using the word economy. I think some of my reasons were explained before, but that's not what I'm talking about. That's not what I think. My thinking is more on the borderline, the gap between the human psyche, regardless of class, but first and foremost, the working class psyche, and the system that we were all born in, and at least in my experience, my guess would be also in yours, from the very beginning, engaged us in some kind of a fight, in some kind of a power struggle, some kind of way to put us in. And so, coming from that experience, what is important to me at this stage is how we've been able to preserve who we were, who we were meant to be as individuals. Much like same kind of predicament of an indigenous person or an American Indian dealing with the European onslaught and thus with capitalism in the most radical and most atrocious of ways. Is that authenticity of being human, being indigenous ourselves, still there? And what do we need to do to recover it, to express it? How do we become free? I come from the labor movement. I spent 30 years working for SCIU in Massachusetts, representing state employees. I was very pleased to hear that there are some fellow union members here. And also thinking along the same line. But what you said, brother, your name, I missed it. John what?
Flagler.
What?
John Flagler.
It's the beginning point of my reflection. It's like I've seen the enemy, and it's us. So how do we get out from under? Huh? That's the question. So I actually, thinking about how to put an end to capitalism, from your kitchen table on your spare time. I actually did that, and they came up with something. I'll offer it. So basically, I asked myself, what have I worked for all my life, right? To pay taxes for the state, rent to the landlords, interest to the banks, make profit to the bosses, keep the government bureaucracy happy and respected, and die in any one of the wars that me or my children or my relatives find themselves in. Well, what's the answer? I mean, really, once you put all of those pieces together in terms of the time you're spending and how much money out of your paycheck goes for that, time and money, what you got left? Spare time? working people I know, they don't have any spare time. All of their time is being approached, and at wit's end trying to figure out how to resolve a human dimension in their lives. It's a real necessity. It's here now. It's something that has to happen. So stop participating in it. It's a war of words out there. Participation. Well, what are you participating in? We're not participants in this madness? Of course we are. Every time we do anything, every time we use a dollar, we're participating in it. Stop consenting to it. Hello? Supposedly, it's the consent of the people that allows this democracy to go on. People keep on voting. People keep on voting their own way. And stop financing it. Don't work for it. Don't pay taxes to it. It all seems kind of obvious, logical, radical, extreme, idiotic, on the moon. But let's face it. How long do we have to keep on doing the same thing, voting, going to work, before we realize that it's not working? We're not getting a different result. We're all getting screwed, and royally. Right? How do we go about establishing, an alternative dimension of life, an alternative way of life, a new way of life, our way of life, right? The one that we always wanted and we never had an opportunity to work on. And so my idea is that we really need to figure out ways, really commit, really choose to create and experience one's prefigurative utopia. Utopia has very different connotation, but it really is, in your dreams, what is the ideal society? What is the ideal social relation? What is the ideal way to deal with people? What is the ideal way of working? What do you really want? What do you want? If you want it badly, go get it. Right? So let's go get. What is it? Prefiguratively, as Ethan was talking about before, means we don't have to wait for the big revolution to happen. A lot of us have been waiting for that. It ain't gonna happen. Is that? Was somebody going to tell me to stop?
Yeah, that was it.
I didn't realize. I didn't know this time. Are you the timekeeper? Oh, okay. So I'm just then coming close. It's possible, to the extent that we feel the need, the necessity, the wish for it, it's possible to do it now. So in the workshop, what we're going to be doing, the exercise, based on some of the criteria that I spelled out in my paper, of which I will give people copies, we're going to figure out what our utopia is. Okay, thank you.
Again. So what we're gonna do in our sessions is really build off of some of these ideas that we talked about in the morning. We're talking about solidarity economy, and that phrase is something that has been developed in this global process of organizing. There's people in social movements all around the world that use this term solidarity economy to talk about a certain approach to fighting capitalism, a certain approach to creating different kinds of economic relationships. And so, to be clear, unsurprisingly from what we were saying, that solidarity economy isn't a model. It's more like a process. It's more like a way to think about how we might go about transforming our lives together. And so, in a way, solidarity economy, it starts from this idea of a diverse economy, from recognizing that there are all of these different practices that already exist in our midst. Also from recognizing some of what Pasqualino is talking about, that there are also all these possibilities in our midst if we are both able and also willing to take that leap of courage to manifest them. But then solidarity economy is about kind of thinking about the next step. So if we realize that there's lots of different practices, there's lots of different institutions that we might build on, that we might learn from, get inspired by, create new versions of, that a next step is to think about how do we not do that alone? Because we often get in a situation where we're just thinking about, like, how am I going to do this? You know, I mean, this question about us all driving here and the complicity involved in that, in all the forms of oppression that driving is connected to. That's not a thing that I'm going to solve by myself. No way. The only way that's going to be solved is if we solve it all together. You know, and if we all spent hours and hours talking about how to solve that problem, we might come up with some cool stuff. So in a way, solidarity economy is built on that idea that we're trying to figure out how to bring us together to talk about these things and talk about how they might connect, how they might relate, how the work that I'm doing connects with the work that you're doing, how the institutions that I'm a part of or that I'm inspired by might connect with and strengthen the institutions that you're a part of and that you're inspired by. And so we're trying to think about ways of linking them together, ways of networking. And part of this is solidarity economy is sort of built on this idea of shared values. That when we look at that diverse economy, one of the things we might realize is that there are all these different economic practices and institutions, and a lot of them share really similar values, even though they're not connected to each other. I mean, a lot of the things that we've all talked about involve a certain set of common values. A lot of those values that we brainstormed during Mike's section of the morning. And so solidarity economy is about recognizing that and trying to actually come together and talk about what those shared values are and make connections through the values. So it's not so much like, well, everybody should be in a worker co-op. It's like, well, worker co-ops embody a certain set of values, and other things embody a similar set of values. So how do we connect around those values? And it's also not about creating purity there around the values. None of us actually act out our values in a pure way. So we have to recognize that we're all really impure. So it's about coming together and creating spaces where we can negotiate that stuff and wrestle with it together and be impure together. Yeah, but still with that commitment towards, towards moving forward and learning and growing. So Olivia's going to talk a little bit more about the organizing.